Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Bollinger. I'm the Executive Director here at Seed Savers Exchange. Welcome to day 2 of the 2024 Seed Savers Exchange virtual conference. Today, our focus is on the theme of foodways. Foodways explore the intersection of food and culture, food with culture and history, and lead us to discussions of our actions, beliefs, and behaviors around food. And these traditions, sometimes documented and often passed down orally, really help us understand people and our ways of life. Foodways connect us to regions and climates, time periods, ethnic or religious groups, family, and communities. And they're continually evolving. And today we hope to highlight the importance of foodways in your life and the role of food in our collective lives. Seeds are a fundamental part of our foodways. They're the starting point and a means for preserving our cultural heritage and our biodiversity. By saving seeds and sharing seeds, we ensure the continuation of these important traditions. Our mission at Seed Savers Exchange is to steward America's culturally diverse and endangered garden and food crop legacies. And our conference theme, Growing Together, I think reflects our commitment to fostering these collaborative communities passionate about biodiversity and the future of our planet. Today, we're going to explore the connections between food, culture, history, and seeds. Our speakers will share their experiences on food preservation, cultural significance of heirloom crops, and more. We'll delve into food traditions, the revival of ancient foodways, and how food and seeds connect us today. We'll also discuss the role of food in building resilient communities. To start the morning, we've got an incredible panel discussion. We've been having fun behind the scenes in preparation with Wallace, Vivien Sansour, Bonnetta Adeeb, and Hanna, Garth. And that conversation will be moderated by our Preservation Director, Michael Washburn. I just want to remind you to be able to use the chat for any questions that you have. We plan and hope to have a little bit of time for questions and answers if those come up. And also, you have the ability to be able to connect with other attendees at the conference throughout the next several months. This is really a great opportunity, I think, to learn and share and grow together. Lastly, I want to extend a real heartfelt gratitude to our speakers for taking the time to share their stories and their experiences. To our sponsor, Rancho Gordo, today specifically for sponsoring this day, to our attendees, and of course to the Seed Savers Exchange staff who have really worked tirelessly to make this event possible. So thank you, and let the 2024 virtual conference continue. I'm going to bring Michael Washburn, our Preservation Director, on stage. Hey, Michael.
Mike, thanks so much for that wonderful introduction.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this this panel we're going to have here. So just welcome everybody to the keynote panel discussion. As Mike said, I'm Michael Washburn. I'm the Preservation Director at Seed Savers Exchange, and so I'll be your host for this session. And before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge our community agreements. And so we ask that all participants in growing together and sharing seeds, stories, and skills, please be respectful and be curious and be patient and speak from your own experiences and try to avoid jargon and be conscious of intent versus impact and take space and make space and take care of yourself. And by embracing these community agreements, we embrace a collective responsibility to create spaces that are respectful, inclusive, and empowering for all. All right, and a special thank you to Anson Mills and my good friend Glenn Roberts for sponsoring this session. Now, Anson Mills grows and mills one of the most diverse collections of heirloom grains in America. And Glenn highlights the histories of the diverse cultures who stewarded these grains of the Low Country and is largely responsible for the reintroduction of the now well-known Carolina gold rice. Glenn works to preserve and share these foods of his mother's past, whose family ate rice with every meal. And I'm going to bring all wonderful folks to the stage with me here. Welcome, everyone. So here today we have Wallace, Vivien Sansour, Hanna, Garth, and Bonnetta Adeeb. And I'm going to take just a few minutes to give a little introduction of these fine folks and their work. And then I'm going to ask each of them just to kind of give 5 minutes of and talk about just some of the current work that they're in. And then we'll open it up to a wonderful panel discussion, which I've been excited about for some time. So welcome each of you. Thank you so much for being here. First, I'll talk about Miss Ira Wallace. She's a worker owner of the cooperatively managed Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, which offers over 700 varieties of open pollinated, heirloom, and organic seeds selected for flavor and regional adaptability. Now, Ira serves on the board of the Virginia Association for Biological Farming, and she is a member of the Acorn community, which farms over 60 acres of certified organic land in Central Virginia. She was named the 2019 Great America Gardener by the American Horticultural Society and is a 2023 James Beard Foundation Leadership Award finalist. She is the author of Timber Press Guide to Vegetable Gardening in the Southeast, and her new state-specific book series include Grow Great Vegetables in Virginia, are available online and at bookshelves everywhere, and Ira is currently working on creating an Africa diasporic seed collection. Ira, welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we have Vivien Sansour, who is an artist, researcher, and writer who uses installations, images, sketches, films, soils, seeds, and plants to enliven old cultural tales in contemporary presentations and to advocate for seed conservation and the protection of agrobiodiversity as a cultural political act. In 2014, Vivien founded the Palestine Heirloom Seed Library, where she works with farmers in Palestine and around the world. Her work as an artist, scholar, and writer has been showcased internationally, and Vivien is currently the Distinguished Artistic Fellow in Experimental Humanities at Bard College. Vivien, welcome.
Thank you.
And next, we have Hanna Garth. And she is a sociocultural and medical anthropologist focused on the anthropology of food. Garth's scholarship is broadly focused on the ways in which marginalized communities struggle to overcome structural inequalities and prejudices as they attempt to access basic needs. Garth studies these questions in Latin America and the Caribbean and among Black and Latinx communities in the United States. She has focused on the ways in which the global industrial food system affects food access inequalities. Now, in her first book, Food in Cuba, The Pursuit of a Decent Meal, is based on ethnographic research in Santiago de Cuba, the island's second largest city. Her research reveals the ways that even food distribution systems, which ostensibly supply sufficient nutritional needs, can also have detrimental effects on individual and community well-being. Hanna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And surely last but not least, Ms. Bonnetta Adeeb. She's the founder and president of STEAM Onward, Incorporated, a nonprofit organization in Southern Maryland, as well as projects Ujamaa Cooperative Farming Alliance and Ujamaa Seeds. Ujamaa Cooperative Farming Alliance is a collective of emergent and seasoned growers who cultivate heirloom seeds and grow culturally relevant plants for food, healing, and textiles. Ujamaa recognizes the need for increased diversity in farming and the seed industry and the need to provide more opportunities and support for growers from historically oppressed and marginalized communities. To this end, Ujamaa Cooperative Farming Alliance is working to bridge the gap between prospective growers and seed companies. In addition, Bonetta works with the Cooperative Gardens Commission to distribute free heirloom seeds to communities in need, serving 300 seed hubs nationally. January 12th saw the launch of the new Black Indigenous-led project Ujamaa Seeds, an online store cultivating and distinguishing culturally important seeds to increase diversity in the seed industry. Now I'm going to give 5 minutes to each of them to kind of introduce your work, And then today we'll be talking about so many wonderful and challenging things pertaining to seeds and community and about building the world you want to live in. So with that, Ira, do you mind taking the start and tell us a little bit about your work? What have you been working on lately?
Well, I've been working on some things that have been going along for a while. Just yesterday, I was talking to the Virginia Master Gardeners about the heirloom collard project. And that has been something that hit my life in a way that I didn't expect when it came along. One of the authors of the books, Collard, Southern Tradition from Seed to Table, brought up an opportunity to look at something that I took for granted. I mean, collards were like grandma food, delicious and stuff, but not fancy and to be studied. But when I put these collards out, all kinds of Black people who I never knew were a part of the seed world emerged and worked on projects. And our white allies who supported our work jumped in and helped. We at Southern Exposure worked with Seed Savers Exchange at first to get seeds that had been deposited in the USDA gene bank and start making them available. And really, just as the project was getting going and gaining some speed, Ujamaa came along with more of a direct hit on culturally relevant seeds for people from the African diaspora and beyond. And I guess what I do is meet people and connect them and try to make resources available that may have been more concentrated in white communities. So it means an old lady facing computer challenges and triumphing over them. It means bringing, young seed growers like Sister Seeds, Amira, out and encouraging them to teach so that it's not everyone, as in the original heirloom collard donators, was over 60. We're talking about mixing the ages, and Miss Bonetta goes down into the 3-year-old seed farmers, she says. And this, and we also are able to support things like Vivien's project and educate people, take the information that people are bringing in their communities and share it with our communities so we can see what really counts to someone as supportive. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm trying to be healthy. I can't garden as much as I used to, so I try to have those wonderful picture perfect small bed of collards every 1 year that I can share with everyone. And when people ask me to come and talk, I try. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, you're nailing it today. You showed up bright and early. Technology's not in the way. So yeah, Ira, thank you. Vivien. Yeah, Ira just spoke of your kind of intersection. Do you mind sharing with folks what you've been working on lately?
Yes, hi, thank you. It's really difficult to talk about what I have been working on without acknowledging that a lot of what I've been working on is how to just survive in a moment where everything beautiful that we love is being destroyed, and destroyed very systemically, and also destroyed very violently in front of our community. And I just also want to acknowledge how difficult it is also for me to even be on this platform today, because of the level of betrayal I feel from the seed world, that has for so long claimed to really want to support biodiversity, cultural diversity, the protection of the people, the farmers, the hands that feed us. And yet, my world, the world I come from, the world that has been being destroyed, is being destroyed in front of this food movement that claims to care about us, about well, I don't know, obviously it doesn't, and uh, and yet it has been silent for the most part. So a lot of people who have worked in seeds, this panel excluded, who have been inviting me all the time to speak about, because it was cute and lovely to appear as, including of diverse folk. But as our world is burning, there's been crickets. So I just really want to say that it's out of a tradition of the generosity of my people that I'm even here sharing anything about who we are and what we're about and what we're doing. And it's not because this world has merited this generosity. And even though I cannot speak for others, including Ira and Bonetta and Hanna, I know that I'm sure this conversation, as it unfolds, we all come from backgrounds and histories where the world has not just betrayed us, but has destroyed the worlds. You mentioned something, Michael, about the worlds that we want to create. I think a lot about the worlds we already have, that the people who are often now talking about creating an environmentally sustainable world are watching being destroyed and are complicit in its destruction. So I don't feel comfortable sharing about a world I want to create when the world I already have is being dismissed. So why should I trust anybody who is actually saying that they are interested in foodways when or our agroecology or whatever, when in reality I don't see them showing up. It's like a handful of us, but they are always there when there's like a fancy conference. So having said all that, I am also, and the reason I am here on this panel is because I come here and I have been inspired by people like Ira and Bonetta and the work of Hanna and others who are people who know what pain and struggle is, and people who are women who are committed to creating tender spaces in this world. And so when you ask me about what I do, I think in my work with the Seed Library, really what I have been doing, what we have been doing is carrying forward a world that's in hospice, our world, and holding the hand of the beings, be it seeds or trees or whatever, and people who we love that are dying, and trying to figure out how in this space of grief we can also hold a space for tenderness and a space to move forward by still planting a seed even when something has been destroyed. So in essence, the work of the Seed Library, although is about seeds in terms of what people call seed conservation, what we're trying to do is stay alive, keep our story alive, and keep this beauty that is millennia old in the shape of food alive with our culture.
Yeah, Vivien, I appreciate that. And that's what this stage is for. And that's what this place is for, is to have a space to talk about the truth and the realities of things right now. And I've been fortunate enough to be around Palestinian culture for many decades now. And so I can't thank you enough for being here. And I want you to continue to share, of course, the true realities of things that are going on and whatever's in your heart and soul. And I know this is not the easiest thing to do, but I really appreciate you being here. So thank you, Vivien, very much. All right, Miss Hanna, what are you working on these days, and what's in your heart and soul?
Great. Well, I just want to say that I'm honored to be here on this panel with these other strong women, and that, you know, I'm humbled to be in the presence of their work, as they are more connected to actual farming and actual seed saving than I am. I have mostly dedicated my time to researching communities of people who are struggling to access culturally meaningful food. So like you mentioned in the introduction, my early research was working with people in Eastern Cuba who consistently say that the Cuban government, the Cuban socialist state, doesn't provide them with adequate nourishment, both in terms of nutrition, but also in terms of access to culturally relevant foodways. So this is a system that many left-leaning radical people think of as being a wonderful food distribution system where everyone in Cuba has access to some basic bread basket or basic amount of food in the food rations. But the people that I was working with were saying things to me like, well, who determines what is good food? Who determines what is adequate nourishment or what is good enough? And what they were telling me was that in their eyes, they were not being sufficiently taken care of and sufficiently provided for. So I use the concept of the politics of adequacy in that book to kind of understand how people deal with that kind of tension. And it's a very similar theme that I see coming up in the research I've been doing in Los Angeles, where I've been researching the food justice movement, which has mostly been kind of to my surprise, it's mostly been white, middle class, and upper class people who don't live in what is commonly called food deserts or under food apartheid, who are trying to go in and help people who live in those situations. But what I saw or have seen over the course of over 10 years is that many people working in food justice come with their own ideas about what people should be eating and how people should be living. And it's a very much a pedantic, kind of powerful top-down understanding of what people should do. And that a lot of the work that they do is about kind of getting people to change their behaviors. The other thing that I consistently saw in this was that a lot of these folks assume that the Black communities that they're trying to intervene on lack knowledge, that they lack the ability to grow healthy food or to understand how to cook fresh fruits and vegetables. And my own personal experience and background taught me that that is absolutely not the case. Like, I know my family on both sides comes from an agricultural background. I come from many grandmas who've cooked many, many things and grown many things in their gardens. And so I was very sort of taken aback by how food justice people seem to be misunderstanding Black and Indigenous and other people of color's knowledge of food production. And so that's part of what pulled me to the Heirloom Gardens Oral History Project, which I think is the main reason that I'm here, which is a collaboration with Ujamaa Cooperative Farming Alliance, which I'm sure Bonetta will talk a lot about, Spelman College's Food Studies program, and the Princeton Food Project. So I'm one of the PIs on that project, along with Tessa Desmond at Princeton and Kimberly Jackson at Spelman. And the goal of that project is to build out a multi-sited oral history project that looks at the history and traditions and ongoing resilience of Black and Indigenous farmers, gardeners, seed savers across the region we're working in now. We're calling this Southeastern United States and Appalachia. We do hope to expand. But it grows out of Ujamaa's desire to understand, even for Ujamaa's own community, what are culturally meaningful seed varieties and what are culturally meaningful food ways, and what were our grandmothers growing and their grandmothers growing, and how can we carry on those traditions when they might have been lost, or when the seeds might have been lost, or the stories might have been lost. So I think of this as a project that is sort of recasting knowledge and saying that it's not those of us in the academy in the ivory tower who know everything, even though I am a person that's in the ivory tower, but that we need to sort of honor the ways of knowing and the traditions of the people who've been doing this for generations. And so I think I'll end things there.
That's wonderful, Hanna. I appreciate that. And just thanks for highlighting the assumptions. And that's what I think this panel is so powerful, is because of all the wisdom and the firsthand knowledge to be able to talk about the truth about things that are going on and the things that are really happening from firsthand experience. So with that, Bonetta, do you mind telling us a little bit about what's going on in Bonetta's world?
Well, I'll just have to start by telling you that Big Daddy's Greasy Green Collard book was just released. And this is a summation of everything that we've talked about. It's a summation of my life and the journey I've been on, which started during COVID. It started, I'm a retired teacher, 37-year classroom teacher, mother of 3 daughters, wife of Ujamaa Adeeb, grown up a very traditional family life, a life of multiple generations. My family's been farming in this country since 1710 that I know of. And I was born into a very proud heritage of agriculture. But unlike many of the experiences that I took for granted as a child, many families did not have that experience. Where I was taught that farmers knew everything. They knew the water, they knew the land, they knew science, biology, chemistry. They were the geniuses, and they were the ones that helped us survive. I found out that not everybody had grown up with the honored treasure of that knowledge. And so as I began to talk to people about, maybe we'd be healthier if we grew our own food. Maybe we would be healthier if we planted things and lived within the environment, spent time outside with our feet in the soil. That knowledge somehow was left behind with the idea that we could be modernized, that we could be better, that technology would improve our lives and make everything peachy creamy and everything would be fabulous. And we know that not to be the case, of course, as the world crashed down around us because of COVID. Those of us who were alarmed kind of found each other. And that's how I came to meet Seed Savers Exchange. I met Ira Wallace and Vivien and then Hanna. All our work came around on the idea that if anybody cared, grannies were probably on the front line of those who wanted to do something about the struggles that were facing us because the loss of our food supply and the complete breakdown of the food system, that everybody kind of had the idea it was going anyway. It was like on its last leg, and COVID kind of killed it. So through the generosity of IRA, of Seed Savers Exchange, Southern Exposure, and EFN, other companies, we developed a process by which we could help people do something I think is really important. I call it fish in school. You know, Jesus's work was to, you know, pass out those fish and loaves, but Ujama's work is to teach people how to fish for themselves, how to grow for themselves. We felt if we could put good quality seeds in the hands of individual families and communities, that they could take care of themselves. Hanna, you were right. The knowledge is there, but it was falling beside the it was falling because of the loss of all these seniors. You know, the story is that when the elder passes, the library is destroyed. You know, and it was so crucial, you know, the work that Vivien was doing, going, talking to those elders, going into communities where people had lost the pride in farming. And that's a big part of our work, is reestablishing the knowledge and the greatness, having growers stand up. Some of y'all know I make every farmer stand up, hold your shoulders back, be proud of the work you're doing. None of those people could exist without you. You are feeding the world. They can't get through a day without us farmers, okay? We are crucial to survival. And let's talk about survival. The whole idea of what it takes for a human being to make it from one day to the other, that knowledge has been really kind of relegated in the hands of many women, you know, the seed keepers, you know, that do how to do those things, what to do with them. That knowledge, well, in many societies was not elevated, you know, and therefore when there's a problem, who has the answers? And it lies in the hands of many of the people that don't traditionally get the honor and respect in society. So the work of Ujamaa is to reclaim that knowledge, to reclaim the heritage, the food ways, the traditions, but then to conserve it, preserve it, to develop new varieties for the future using heirloom varieties that are true to type, and to make that information available for future generations. So are we thinking about what's happening to our children, our great-grandchildren in the future? Do we have the long vision? And that's why the whole idea of world building, which seems kind of crazy if you talk about it in terms of the fact that we have brothers and sisters that are being bombed as we speak, that are losing their lives as we speak. But yet, out of the ashes, there is always survival. Survivors that will need to carry on and do the work of rebuilding and reclaiming those societies. We will rise, you know, we'll rise from like our ancestors have risen, you know, of those trips on those slave ships. Being in the hulls of those ships, nobody ever thought that there would be a day, but we have made it to this point where we now have new opportunity. And so my work is helping people to see the possibilities and to feel the obligation and to give them the skills it takes to reclaim that heritage through the Oral History Project, finding those seeds that come from those Southern communities through the seed work that Ira does, and then learning and how to capture that in poetry and music and film as Hanna does. All of this is a part of the work that we do. And I could not be happier. I could not be more honored to find in my senior years to be blessed in this incredible way. So thanks for the opportunity.
This is fantastic. Shoot, I'm just I'm just lucky as it comes to be sitting up here, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely. Thank you for that, Bonnetta. And so now I'd just like to open it up to everybody here, and have y'all discuss the topics you want. That's what we, you know, I talked about the challenges. You know, I have a friend I have a farmer friend in Gaza right now, and at one time it was to help support getting infrastructure for a farm, and today it's just about being able to survive and try to make it to a place where one day we can farm again. And so, you know, you know, the challenges are many of the things that continually we're trying to overcome. And So I just want to open this up to all of y'all to talk and to discuss, to debunk assumptions, to talk about knowledge that's left behind, that we're, and Hanna, to your point, one of the things as a young whippersnapper going into undergrad, studying anthropology, with this idea we need to go into communities and teach something that's far from what it is. That knowledge has been there. That knowledge, people know how to farm, people know how to cook, people know how to do that, but it's about not taking away the resources and the culture and everything that's been established through time, and allowing people to carry on the traditions and the peaceful lifestyle that they all already know how to do. So with that, yeah, let's talk. Ira, we haven't heard from you in a bit. How about you? How about you kind of kickstart us going?
Well, hearing everyone talk, sometimes it puts me in this position that I am in these days of what is the right thing to do with my time and energy and resources. I used to think that owning land cooperatively was the answer, but it has to be more. Like, in a community to support people, you need childcare people, and you need teachers who don't just teach in the schools, but who take, as one of my earlier mentors in community, who takes what people are doing and what they have as knowledge, and makes that available. They elevate what is already in our communities, and they don't do what they think will support someone in the community. They just do something. Like, now I find myself more looking to see what someone who has the energy and the empathy to work and to try to support those efforts. It's so difficult because before I thought I knew at least one way to make things better, and now I know that more than one project, more than a few steps are needed to have food justice, and to have communities where the food that people choose, not that they're forced to eat, is what is making them healthy. And the right of everyone to have a place to live and a place to grow food or get food that is grown in a healthy way. This has been hitting me hard lately with things that are happening in Palestine, but just with young farmers trying to get an acre in this big country where they can grow food for their local community. And that isn't very enlightening, but I like to hear what other people in their work are running into as a handle they can hold on to.
Ira, thank you for that. I just want to break in here and remind the audience that this is a safe place for our panelists, and to please keep comments of peace and hopefulness and support. If you're unable to do that, I would like you to remove yourself from the session. This will not be tolerated. Can't understand what folks have gone through and are experiencing right now. So I'm not going to tolerate. We will not tolerate. We went over to the agreements. This is a safe space, and if you can't adhere to that, we will have to remove you. I've got a saying in Arabic right behind me. If we just need to remind everybody that you're among family and you're in a safe territory. And so we're going to keep it like that. And so I don't want to have to step in again. This is so generous of this wonderful group of people up here. And Vivien, I can't thank you enough for being here. As you mentioned before, it's not about even just how do I get the resources to farm right now? It's how do I survive? How do I get a new tent? How do I get to a safe location? And these are the things that we're dealing with. And so please, folks, this is a safe space. And so with that, Vivien or Bonetta, Vivien, would you care to carry on with what Ira was talking about and take this time and space to carry on this wonderful conversation and this and while this is difficult, and I knew this is funny from some white guy to be in the middle of just such wonderfulness, I just want this carried on, and along in the comments here, we've got wonderful people of support, and people are so happy to be here and see this wonderful panel talk, and to discuss all the wonderful all the challenges that folks face and that we work on. And Ira, I appreciate that. What do we spend our time working on? There's so many things to work on. How do you, with the limited time that we have, short little glimpse, what do we do? Bonetta, yes.
Yeah, so the thing that brings the four of us together are stories, seed stories. And when I first met Ira, she's a storyteller. When I first met Vivien, she's a storyteller. And Hanna is a collector of stories and tells incredible stories. And one of the things that we normally do on any panel is to tell a seed story. And I think what I love about seed stories is that they're about ancient times, but they're also about the future. And we have this very tiny little weapon against hunger, against oppression, against fear. And that is the seed. It's the one thing that we all carry. And we can carry it on our bodies. The story was that my ancestors, when mother was losing her children, if possible, mother would sew a seed into the hem of a garment or into an amulet around the neck. Or you've heard stories about seeds being braided into the hair. And we're talking survival here, and we're talking about the elevation of our humanity. So we're living our humanity in a sense through this seed concept. And so, Vivien, if you could talk, I don't know if you're desirous, but if you could talk about that story of the watermelon, because I think that it's just so poignant and so evident of how it relates to where we need to go with this.
Thanks, Bonetta. Unfortunately, I don't feel like sharing the story of any story, actually. And I want to just not pretend that this person, who is it? Bridget something up here, is not saying the things they're saying. I also find the hypocrisy of someone who is apparently interested in the food panel joining and not seeing the privilege from which they sit and speak. Um, you know, I just lost a farmer friend um, who is what salt of the earth is. And by the way, he did grow those watermelons, Bonetta. And to sit and read such bigotry that is disguised under historical facts and adding salt to an already open wound is just something that makes me wonder who else is on this call who's not commenting or speaking, but thinks that it's an intellectual conversation to talk about the murder of farmers. It's just an intellectual conversation to talk about the murder of our culture. And it's not an intellectual conversation. There's nothing intellectual about it. And there is actually no facts in what this person shared. And I just feel it's not offended. I feel sorry for folks like that who fail to be connected to the most basic part of their humanity. And as such, I don't feel that I want to share any part of my story, honestly, because I don't feel safe in this space anymore.
Yeah, Vivien, I'm sorry for that. I was, I'm asking them to leave, and I apologize for that. I want this to be a safe space, and I respect obviously the way you feel. I personally, I have a personal connection to Palestine. I've sit and watched this and have family there and worry and worry and worry. And I think folks that are over there with ignorant comments can't even begin to understand what it's like to day after day after day after day watch and feel the ongoing pain of an ethnic cleansing of a system that's been in place for 100 years now. And Vivien, I respect anything you want to share, anything, if you do or do not. And I know that you're definitely amongst folks that adore you and love you and feel and understand your pain right now. And I didn't want to necessarily put your pain on display. I simply wanted to give a space for folks that don't understand. People need to understand what's really been going on and start to help, like you said, the systemic horrors that have been happening to Palestinians for so long, and I am struggling for words, as you can obviously see, but this is real, and this is how it is very difficult to talk about. And panel, if you could give me some beautiful words, because it's the wisdom of this panel.
Give you some help, Michael, because this is the world we live in.
It really
we live in a world that has been like this. My ancestors have been on the front line of pain and abuse, and that's why I say we will rise regardless. We have to rise, but I know that part of my responsibility and the thing I love about living is the fact that sometimes I get to be the one that helps to lift. Sometimes that falls to me. And what a blessing. I get to be the granny. I get to be the shoulder sometime. I get to be hope. And every single one of us, I don't believe there's anybody in this group that hasn't planted a seed. And that is an act of faith. It's an act of hope that beyond whatever the stormy sky might look like, or how I just left Aruba and it was 104 degrees, let me tell you. But even fruit, I saw a cashew. Even in the harshest conditions, things can survive and thrive. And so, what I'm hoping that we get from this experience is the idea that we will collectively lift our suffering brethren and sisters, and we will do our part in playing a role to document and to tell the story. So many times I feel that's what Vivien does, is she's documenting from a perspective that only she can see. We don't really know her pain. We know our pain and we can somewhat relate to it. But what we can do is to be there, be a shoulder, be a friend. And we can grow seeds to support Palestinian communities and other communities. We started originally with sorghum, which was came from Darfur people who were victimized by the horrors of genocide. We work with Syrian communities, people from Homs, people from now the Congo. So the role of Ujamaa is to be there as some safe, loving, warm arms, a shoulder, and a friend, but also as a public voice for those in need, as maybe we have to be the one that speaks up if others, for whatever reason, cannot. If we need to be their voice, we have to be there for the suffering because somebody was there for my ancestors. Somebody was there for our suffering. And so we pass the humanity forward, and we live with hope that they will be a brighter day.
Yeah, Hannah.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Bonetta is saying and to think about what's going on here today in the broader context of knowledge and misinformation or disinformation, which our society today is inundated with misinformation. And thinking about what the question Ira raised about what can we do right now, what's the best thing to do right now, I think part of that is about re-educating ourselves and about understanding and listening to perspectives of people who've had firsthand experience on the ground with different kinds of violence and struggles, to see how their knowledge and their realities maybe are not reflected in what we might have been told is a fact, or what we might have learned in school or on the news or wherever we're getting our information. So when I often talk to students who feel a sense of urgency that they need to do something to make the world a better place. And I always tell them that before you act, you need to learn, and you need to sit back and be in a humble position where you take in all of the histories and realities of the people or the situation that you're trying to understand. And that maybe what you conclude is that it's not your place to act, or it's not your place to speak, or this is not the place for you. And that act of self-reflexivity and learning and kind of sitting back and being humble is a really, really important task for any kind of world building or future building, where we're bringing communities together who come from very different backgrounds and different perspectives and have different visions of what the future should look like.
Yeah, it's funny, as I was raised in the South and I'm married to a Palestinian, and what I always thought was so beautiful is how so close our cultures were to each other. A bunch of Southern folk and Arab folk, just doors open, welcome, always too much food, always feeding folks, always so generous, uh, just so kind and loving and warm, and 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 to have that not be understood, and once we show the humanity of people and people can understand it, and this, yes, Hannah, the history is there. People need, if you don't understand the history, if you don't understand 1948, if you don't understand even in the 30s and what turned at the turn of the century of what was happening in Palestine, if you don't understand everything that's happened, if you don't understand 67, then you need to go out and learn it and read it. The resources is there. Talk to, find folks in your community, find Palestinians, find Arab communities, sit in on community talks and start to learn to understand. If you really want to understand what is actually happening, go firsthand and get the firsthand knowledge. And I think that, that relates back to what you were saying, Hannah. It's that firsthand knowledge. Go speak to somebody, sit down with somebody and start to learn. And you'll find that we have such commonness and just humanity that a bunch of Southern folk from Texas and some Palestinians, we are so close. It's just unbelievable. And it's no wonder my wife and I found each other. And so, and Hannah, just wonderful words there. It's, we have to understand. And if you haven't spent the time, then maybe you should bow out. And so, and that's where I'm like, well, as much as I've had the opportunity to learn and understand and be in place and in spirit and contact in just a human way with people to really understand this, I still even have hesitations to sit and talk beyond what I think I know. And so, that's why I love this panel, because there's so much firsthand understanding of situations and what needs to be worked on and what needs to be cherished and what needs to be understood. And so that's why I find this panel amazing. And, I think this is, I knew this was going to be challenging, and it was going to be challenging for the audience. It was going to be challenging for us. And it was sure as heck going to be challenging for me to sit here and be amongst such wonderful, beautiful, wise folks, and me trying to come up with some words that half the time I'd sit and struggle. So, but yeah. And so, yeah, thank you for that. And,
my one more thing, let me just say that Ira is doing this work with the establishment of the Ira Wallace Seed School. We are reclaiming this. We're talking about ethical work, ethics. We're talking about leaning forward, leading into struggle, not putting our head in the sand, but facing struggle with the vision that we can do better. We can make it better. Now, it seems for many people, not everybody will make the journey with us, but those of us that survive should be and will be a part of another reiteration of us as human beings. Human beings, I'm in my senior years now. I will be gone before long. But hopefully there will be some remnants of at least my heart and my love for humanity will survive past me. And so, Ira, thank you so much for your vision. I can't tell you, almost every idea that's come up here has come out of Ira's think tank, this thing up here that gives us marching orders in terms of how to move forward. So I love all of y'all people. Let's face it, I really do.
Thank you, Bonetta and Ira and Hannah and Michael and everybody who has shared supportive words here. Unfortunately, I don't feel like I can continue right now. So I'm going to just thank you and leave you. And I hope that we will have time together in better times in the future.
And God be with you, my dear sister. You know I love you. And
Thank
here's long distance hugs.
Thank you.
Yes, love you much, Vivien. Not a day goes by I don't think of you. So
Thank
thank you for being here.
Take care.
Bye, Vivien. And folks, I think with that, I think, maybe this, I just want to thank y'all for this. And this was, I didn't know where this would exactly go, but I knew that I had wonderful folks on the screen that care about community, that work tirelessly about building community and building a world that we live in. And, Vivien's facing one that's being destroyed right before our very eyes, like she said. And so I just want to thank y'all for being there and continuing to be there for her. And thank you for willing to be up here and share your wisdom and knowledge. I know we've probably shook some folks out there, and that's good because folks need to be shaken.
Yes, they do.
And so I can't thank y'all enough. And so I think we're just going to end it with that. And we've had some wonderful comments in the chat and just people showing support all around. And for me, this is wonderful because, it's not always rosy. It's not always rainbows. And that's why there's so much passion in this work, is because we're trying to build rainbows, and we're trying, and folks are really trying to make things right for humanity. And y'all are some of the most hardworking individuals that I've come across that are working to do that. And so I was just so happy to be able to share with y'all, with folks that maybe haven't had the opportunity to experience, because I feel so blessed every time I'm in y'all's presence. And so this has just been wonderful, and so and challenging, but I think that that's all good. So thank y'all so very much.
Thank you for all the work you've done to bring us together and facilitate the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Glenn. I know Glenn, played a role in this, and his interest in our education work and our reclaiming of this heritage. And Michael, all the people who supported this opportunity for us. This was a lot. This was a lot for us to do, in order to show our support for, in order for us to put ourselves on the line. To say that we were on the team of those who suffer. We were on their side. We're taking the side of the needy, of the aggrieved, of the injured, or the victims. And that's the work we continue to do. With the Ukrainians, we grew for the Ukrainian community. Those communities in need our help, and they need our love, and they need our understanding. So thank you for providing this. I know that your heart is in this work, Michael, so thank you.
Yep. Again, just wonderful words. I'm always just, thanks for continuing to shake, and I appreciate it. So
well, do what grannies can do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I got the OGs up here, right? The original grannies.
Who's gonna check us grannies, right?
That's right. Come try.
And aunties, we got Hanna in there. She's an auntie.
Yeah.
Not a granny yet.
One day, Hanna.
One day.
Get to be in the OG, but all right. Well, y'all are beautiful and wonderful, and I love y'all so much. And y'all enjoy this Friday, and I'll talk to y'all very, very soon. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.